Orchids are one of the largest plant families in the world, and a massive 5,000 species can be found across the islands of Indonesia. And I personally am fascinated by them. There are local indigenous orchids growing wild in the gardens, like this bamboo orchid. This species has no leaves and no way to photosynthesize, so it relies on a relationship with other species like fungi to survive. Having a wild orchid pop up in the garden is the highest form of compliment. In the protection of 2 large indoor orchid houses is a collection of orchids that would make any enthusiast's jaw drop. One of the rooms is dedicated to hybrid orchids. It's full of specimens that have been produced by plant breeders all over the world by carefully selecting traits to create new hybrids. These designer orchids are incredible. They're bred to be more prolific and long-lasting. Like, check this one out. There are hundreds of Phalaenopsis or moth orchids in here, which is a genus you probably recognise as the quintessential indoor plant. Some species of Phalaenopsis are native to Indonesia, but the ones that you see sold in supermarkets, on display in bathrooms and hotel lobbies, they're all hybrids. And it's no wonder they're so popular. The big, showy, colourful flowers are pretty impressive. The second room holds a huge collection of naturally occurring orchid species. Many species in here are types of dendrobium. They're epiphytic, which means in the wild they grow on other plants without harming them. They absorb their water and nutrients from the rain, air, and other debris that collects nearby. Some of the plants are displayed in naturalistic environments. Others are in pots, growing on large chunks of charcoal. Orchids are under huge threat in Indonesia through exploitation, but also from habitat loss and climate change. A large role of this botanical garden, and botanical gardens all over the world, is the long-term conservation of threatened species. This room full of bubbling jars and bottled baby plants is the garden's tissue culture lab. It's managed by plant conservation specialist Dr. Surya Dientina. Here, she and other researchers are working to preserve plant genetics into the future. What is tissue culture?
Tissue culture is when you plant seeds or organs or cells on the agar in a sterile condition. So we have the light and then the environment and everything is under control. And then they grow because we put the vitamin, nutrient, so they can grow well like just like outside.
The controlled conditions make for great seed germination rates.
Compared to the nature, we get more successful percentage. In nature, they only can germinate about 1%. Yeah, so it's very low compared with the tissue culture.
It varies between species, but here in the lab, some species have a huge 90% success rate. And I understand that you've also been experimenting with seed storage.
Yeah, so usually, conventionally, we conserve the seeds under -20 degrees Celsius, but then there's a limitation with the -20 because some seeds, they can survive like for 10 years or more, but some other seeds, they can't store even for 1 year. So we try cryopreservation in the liquid nitrogen, so it's -196 degrees Celsius.
That is cold.
Yeah, very cold. So you have to freeze and then you sleep, and then yeah, and then we can rethaw them, bring them back to grow. Hopefully, this can be a backup for conservation in nature. For example, this one is cryopreserved and non-cryopreserved seeds. This one is Dendrobium capra. Dendrobium capra is one of endangered species from Indonesia. And you can see here, there's no difference between the cryopreserved and non-cryopreserved. So we can say there's no damage with the cryopreserved.
So do you think this is the future of conservation?
With the cryopreservation, hopefully we can still conserve the plants 100 years from now for our future generation.